Hello everyone, my name is Dwayne Kimball, owner and founder of CAMD89 VA Claims Consulting, Leave No Vet Behind, and also I'm a United States Army veteran. Today I'm bringing you another educational video as it pertains to the VA disability compensation claims process. And today I'm going to be discussing a high-level review, how do you fail, and how do you win. I get asked so many questions about the high-level review process, and it's apparent that a lot of veterans are failing because they lack the basic education and they don't do the proper research before they enter that particular process. So today I'm going to be talking about, these are my personal opinions on why veterans fail and why veterans win. And also on the win side, I'm going to be sharing some of the ways that I was able to be successful in winning my appeal. So first, let's start with why do veterans fail at the high-level review? One, not being educated on the VA disability compensation claims process. That's something that when I first filed my claim, like I said before in many of my other videos, I was given some bad information and it took years to correct those mistakes. So you have to become educated, and one of the first ways of educating yourself is understanding the 5 ways of service connection, okay? I'm going to link that video at the end of this video so you can go back and check it out. Actually, it was one of my first videos that I did, okay? Number 2, not knowing why you're submitting a high-level review, okay? Are you submitting it because you were denied, because you received a negative opinion from a CMP exam? Or are you doing a high-level review because the VA failed to grant you a compensation and pension exam when you were treated in service for it to obtain a medical opinion and rationale? Did they grant the incorrect effective date? Did they grant the incorrect evaluation? So again, it goes back to number 1, being educated, understanding the disability that you're claiming. Does it fall under one of the 5 ways of service connection? Did the VA follow all the necessary guidelines, regulations and references, and the doctor just gave a negative opinion? So you have to know why you're doing a high-level review. And one of the reasons of you just being denied and you think you should have been granted, that's not a reason. You got to have objective evidence and facts to back that up, okay? One of the things that I didn't do was, one of the conditions, I didn't have an exam, the CMP exam for it, and luckily enough for me, before I got that call to do that formal conference, I was able to obtain that, okay? Number 3, you don't know what questions to ask. When you submit VA Form 20-0996 and you select for an informal conference for that high-level review, when that person from the VA calls you, you don't know what questions to ask. You just start talking. You start talking and talking and talking, and the waters get muddy, okay? So you need to know everything about your claim. Make sure you ask the correct questions, but a lot of veterans do not ask questions, okay? And the questions that they do ask are possibly not the correct questions. So you definitely want to make sure you ask the correct questions, ask some questions, have them written out, and make sure you're asking the right questions, okay? So number 4, being long-winded. You get that call, you're excited, and you just want to tell your whole story from beginning to end, and you think it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. They don't have 10 to 15 minutes. You have to be direct, short, and to the point, okay? So it goes back to number 1, being educated, understanding why you're doing a high-level review, okay? Understanding the high-level review process, all right? making sure you organize, okay? But those are 4 reasons that I think that veterans fail. Not being educated on the VA disability compensation claims process, not knowing why they're submitting submitting for a high-level review, not asking the correct questions, and then being long-winded. You can't, they don't have time to stay on the phone for an entire hour to listen, listen to you talking about your case from beginning all the way up until the high-level review, okay? So you have to be short, direct, and to the point. But those are just some pointers of why I personally feel veterans fail. Now, how do veterans win? Okay, and again, this is just my personal opinion. How do veterans win? 1, being educated on the process, knowing, when I mean process, the VA claims process, knowing from beginning, understanding the 5 ways of service connection. How did you claim that particular condition under one of the 5 ways of service connection? Were you treated in service for it? You're claiming it's secondary to a service-connected condition. Did you get a CMP exam? If you got a CMP exam, did the doctor give you a negative opinion? So just understanding the basics, okay? A lot of people, they confuse themselves by overthinking this particular process because they're not educated on it, okay? Don't overthink it. It's complicated, but it's not as complicated as most veterans think, okay? Because once you become educated and familiarize yourself with this process, trust me, it'll alleviate a lot of frustration, okay? So number 2, being prepared for the high-level review, okay? And what I mean by that is having, taking notes, memorizing everything that's in your claim. And I'm not saying verbatim, but understanding what are you claiming, okay? What are conditions are you claiming? Under one of the 5 ways of service connection, which one of the 5 ways of service connection does that claim condition fall? And just knowing what, just the basics. I cannot stress that enough. Give you an example. I've talked about this in a couple of my videos as well. Before I went to appeal, I had a copy of my claims folder, okay? 2, most importantly, I wrote down on legal pad because I wanted to make sure I had 60 minutes. Now on the informal conference, you may not have that long, but back when I did my appeal, you only had 60 minutes, okay? On an informal conference, you may not have as long, but you still can be prepared. And one way that I prepared myself, I had a legal pad, and I wrote down everything that I was appealing, okay? And don't get confused when I switch back and forth from appeal to high-level review. When I did this or went through it, it was called appeals. Now it's called a high-level review, but it's the same. So if I just say appeals, I'm just old school VA, okay? So when I went in the room, I had, for my appeal video conference, I had a legal pad. I had everything listed in order that I want to talk about that I was appealing. And I had evidence already tabbed in my claims folder as it pertains to why I should have gotten a higher evaluation, why wasn't a DBQ utilized to grant a higher evaluation, also why I felt that the VA or the rater had assigned an incorrect effective date, okay? And then my nexus statement that accompanied my DBQs and as to why I didn't go to the CMP exam because I felt that they were sufficient for rating purposes. So I went into it armed to the T, but I had notes that could carry me too. And it wasn't like 3 or 4 pages of notes. I think I had a page and maybe a page and a third of or half of a second page, a page and a half. That was it. And I just had them all lined out. Went in, I introduced myself, and the decision review officer, she swore me in. She read off the transcript for a hearing, what she needed to say, and then that took about 5 minutes, and I took it from there. But I control the narrative because I had notes, and I had already planned out what I wanted to talk about, and I had the evidence to bag it up, okay? So I didn't talk about anything else outside of that. I didn't get too long-winded on one topic. I made sure I knew the answers when she asked me the questions. If I didn't have it in my notes, I knew it was in my claim file. I made myself very familiar with my claim, okay? So that's what I mean by that. Obtain the information that the VA has that's going to review your high-level review. Request a copy of your claims file, okay? Now, keep in mind, when you do this, it's going to take a long time. So you have to do it ASAP, because if you wait on a claim to come back and you're denied, and then you put that request in, you only have 365 days of appeal rights once you receive that notification. Okay, and I don't really want to say because of a denial. You could have been given the incorrect effective date or the incorrect evaluation. Okay, but either way, you'll still only have 365 days to submit that high-level review / appeals. I submitted a FOIA request in January of this year, requesting my claims, my electronic claims folder on CD. Now we're in the middle of October, and I still haven't received it. So let's just say, hypothetically, I was denied a claim the same week I submitted that FOIA request. I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time where my appeal rights are going to end, and I still don't have a copy of my claims folder. Now, the VA should do something to get you this information ASAP, because if you're doing a high-level review / appeal, you need to know exactly what they're looking at, and you got to do your due diligence to get it. If you got to call the White House, the VA White House hotline, start filing complaints. If you have to go on the VA's website to IRIS, help do an inquiry. If you have a rating decision, look in that notification letter, and there's a link of the website to an IRIS customer inquiry, how you can do that. Okay, I would have done the IRIS inquiry and called the VA White House hotline and say, hey, look, you all only give me 365 days. I put a request in for this information 10 months ago, and I'm running out of my appeal is about to expire. I need to get this ASAP, so I need to be able to, so I can be able to review what's in my claims file before I even get that call from the decision review officer. Okay, so that's something you definitely want to keep in mind. And always, even my clients, I tell them, if you're just starting out, everything, submit the FOIA request, because it's going to take a while to get a copy of your claims file. Well, you may not, if you're just starting out, you may not have much in that file, but I guarantee you by the time you get it, if you don't have your STRs in that first rating, it'll be in there, and at least you'll have that. And then from then going forward, you can make a copy of everything that you send the VA and make a copy or keep everything that the VA sends you. I talk to so many veterans, they say, oh, I have a VSO, I have a lawyer, they submitted it. The first question I ask them, did you have your VSO or lawyer make you a copy and put it in the mail and send it to you so you can build your folder? And they say no. Okay, so you have to do your due diligence, and you got to put the time and effort in. Okay, number 4, asking the right questions when that person, when you have your informal conference. So whether it's a rating specialist or decision review officer, if they call you and say, hey, this is an informal conference, some of the questions that I had to think about, if I was still working my claim and I requested a high-level review, what questions would I ask? One of them, and I'm looking off some notes here, so I do apologize if I'm looking down. First question I would ask, have you reviewed my appeal or high-level review and understand why I'm claiming or submitting an appeal? Okay. Number 2, are you the person that's going to make the decision? 3, what regional office has jurisdiction over my claim? Okay. And the reason why that's important is because if you have to call the VA White House hotline and do a complaint for whatever reason, you could tell them at that time you can say this complaint should go to this particular regional office, or put on the complaint, because they may just, I don't know how they route it to the VA, but if they just route it to the VA, once the VA get it, you can say, it'll be on there and say, hey, the veteran stated that at the time of this complaint, this particular regional office had jurisdiction over their claim. Okay, and then you know exactly. Now the person may not tell you their whole name and or whatever, but you can ask them, hey, what is your job title? Are you a decision review officer? Are you a RVSR? Are you the person that's going to be making the final decision on my claim? Have you even reviewed why, my high level review before you call me? They should have done that. They should have done it. I've heard some veterans state that they asked that question and they told them no. And I was very surprised that they hadn't reviewed it, because you would think that they would have reviewed the claim before they even picked up the phone and called the veteran. Okay. A couple of other questions is, let's just say you were denied and you went in for an increase and they denied you the increase. You're 30% for, let's say you're 30% for PTSD. You submitted a DBQ for review PTSD. The rater, the VSR scheduled the exam. You said, I'm not going to the exam because I don't want there to be any conflicting medical evidence, okay? And you don't go. They send a report, QTC, LHI, or whoever. They send the response back to the VA. You failed to report. You stated that you weren't going because you already submitted a DBQ and it was sufficient for rating purposes. Let's say for all intents and purposes, it was sufficient, but the RVSR just decided not to use it because they wanted you to go to their CMP exam. Then you submit a high-level review. One of the questions I would ask, well, one, why wasn't my DBQ considered and granted a higher evaluation? Due to the fact that it was sufficient. And if the RVSR felt that it wasn't sufficient, why is it sufficient? Okay, so that's why that decision review officer, RVSR, should have reviewed that case, because if they would have reviewed beforehand, they could have made that determination and said, hey, wait a minute, this DBQ is sufficient for rating purposes. They shouldn't have confirmed to continue. They should have granted the increase. Okay, so you want to make sure you ask those correct questions. And again, like I stated earlier, when I went in, I went through my claims folder and I just kept looking and looking and looking to see, was it something missing? Did I do something wrong? What mistakes did the VA do, the RVSR, and why wasn't my DBQs used when I knew that they were sufficient for rating purposes? So I just, jotted everything down and then I condensed it. I made it short, so when I started talking, it didn't seem like I was rambling. I didn't know what I was saying. I was just kind of, I wasn't just talking, okay? That's not going to help you win. You have to know exactly what's what in that folder, okay? First, understanding, being educated on the claims process, knowing why you're filing that high-level review as it pertains to what you're trying to do, okay? And then understanding the evidence. If the doctor gave a negative opinion, did you have a DBQ? Whatever the case may be, you have to familiarize yourself, and basically you're telling that person why you should have been granted service connection, why you should have been granted that increase that you were not granted, and also if you should have been awarded an early effective date. And as I mentioned before, in one of my videos when I was talking about my claim, they only went back, I did a submitted for an increase, and I eventually got awarded that increase on appeal. And when I got it, I was like, wow, okay, I got it. And I looked at received the rating decision, and I saw that they finally granted the increase, but the effective date was wrong. They went back 2 months, and they were supposed to go back 2 years. Someone said, hey, you maxed out why even bother? And I'm like, no, it's an error. They didn't go through my claims file. So when I went in there to appeal, I knew that that was one of the issues that I was appealing. They failed to grant an early effective date, and I had that VA form 21-4138. Back then, you could use a 4138 to submit file for increase. Now you can't, but back then you could. And I had a copy of that 4138 from 2 years prior, showing the date stamp where I submitted it at a particular regional office. Okay, and when I got into the appeal hearing, I had that on my notes, and I already had it tabbed in my claims folder. So when it came up, guess what? I already had it. I led the decision review officer to it. It took about 3 minutes. Then I went on to the next item. Okay, I led the conversation in the hearing basically because I was familiar with my claim. Okay, so again, this is not a guarantee that you will win or you'll fail your high-level review / appeal. This is just my personal opinions and some things that I did to help me be successful, and I want to share them with you so you don't make the same mistakes that I did, and therefore you can be successful at your high-level review. Okay, so with that being said, please like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Please share this video, and also continue to be safe during this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for your service, and I'll see you in my next educational video. Thank you.